This is one of those classical pieces that has the potential for a wider appeal because it has a rhythm that never stops and really catchy melodic material, like Mozart's Turkish March or Chopin's Fantasy Impromptu. But it's probably a bit overshadowed by the Hall of the Mountain King, that's also by Grieg and a great piece in that category. In English it's known as March of the Dwarves, but in the original Norwegian that Grieg meant, that I can understand because it's really close to Swedish, Norwegian and Swedish, it's about trolls, but the Scandinavian folklore type of trolls. So not the big and dangerous ones. We have those as well as trolls, but we also have like a smaller variety of trolls that's more like goblins or gnomes in the Anglican world. And this piece is about those, I think, because they're just a bit sinister and annoying on their own as individuals, but when they start to grow in numbers, it gets dangerous, and that's what happens in this piece. And Grieg really knows how to chart a piece that builds up more and more energy. So we start with a quick march beat in the left hand, and then this gesture in the right hand, which I think is a genius idea. It's basically an upbeat of 4 notes, but starting in the rhythm, and it's so quick it's almost like a glissando, but in a very controlled way also. Like, I think it's such a good thing because it's very rare, but I think it should be more piano music with this type of figuration. If you know of any piano music with this type of idea, please share it in the comments, and I'd love to know. And you can also choose to play it either more clear and detached, like really bouncy, or more of a glissando, like one gesture. And I do prefer the latter, a little bit more, not 5 different notes, but like one thing. But you still have to practice, if you're playing this, a little bit of, so you can have control over the notes, because it's supposed to be very rhythmically. So okay, then we get the melody going, which is also a very catchy melody, but more in like a musical operetta kind of way. So just the D minor, and then this chromatic, mischievous. It lands on this chord, that's the E major, and E major is not part of D minor scale, so it's an altered chord borrowed from the Lydian mode. You have this sharp 4th over D. That's the significance of this chord with a G sharp over D, the Lydian energy. Then we get the same thing a little bit higher up, starting over. And now it's kind of the same chord, but now it's an A, which is the dominant to D, so it's not that exotic, but it's still the same idea, a major chord at the end. Starting in G minor, the 4th in D, so we're in the tonalities established even with this spicy chord in the beginning. And here is basically an attack of these controlled glissando movements, small trolls zooming around. So much fun music. Another typical Grieg feature, sequence in thirds, so starting on the B flat, then moving down here, the same thing down, starting on G minor, and then, so I'm just playing the starting notes, B flat, G minor, E flat, but of course it's rhythmically. Landing on the A 5th, and then immediately to E flat, which is a tritone move, another Grieg feature. You have this oscillation between the two. Also mischievous. And then he takes a shorter part of that and repeats it, which is a trick we know from Beethoven. Really, I think, popularized that. You take the last part of the phrase and you repeat it to build up to a closure. Here is pianissimo, but still. So here we get only the accompaniment left after the glissandos worn off. So it's like waiting around, see what happens, and it starts to dig down chromatically, and he finds this really nice movement, basically just going chromatically, and back to D minor. Really nice, fun chords. From the A, which is a dominant. So A and then up here, and then down, diminished, A again, and then this A flat 5, A7 flat 5 as a final touch. And the same accompaniment pattern, but now fortissimo. So this is like the collective of trolls has amassed to a big army, and we get the same melody higher up. So I find it helps to only look at the left hand here, because these jumps are... If you start to look away, you might start to miss them, but if you look here, because this you don't need to look at, it's much easier. If you find this chord, it's very close in the hand. Okay, moving on, when we reach the second part. So we get the same movement with the glissando. Tough part for the left hand, it changes every note, like the distance. And also, it doesn't say anything about pedal, but I like to add pedal here to have the more imposing feeling of the troll army, and not... You can do it, some pianists play it very, very clear for the clarity, but yeah, it's a matter of taste, I think. So now, compared to the first time, now we go a new direction, because the first time here is where we get this chromatic thing in the accompaniment. Now we go for 2 more rounds. So it's 1, 2, and then 3, 4, and it continues in a starting over in a lower position. So going down, and diminuendo starts here. And I think I lift the pedal here, because we've had all the big sound and now it's smaller sound again. It's kind of the same chromatic feeling in the end. It's the same in the right hand, but the left hand, instead of going to A, it goes back to D minor, so more closer to the tonality. And yeah, I do like to put the pedal on this chord. You can do it short also, same thing. So it's like at the end of the army has dispersed, and there's just one troll alone wandering about here in the end. And we get a final echo of this, that's starting the section, but it kind of dies away, and final movement up on the D5th. And then we get the middle section, which is very lyrical, so complete contrast. And for me, it feels like the Norwegian fields or woods in the spring in the absence of trolls. So a perfect contrast, because then they return after this. So really, like, this could almost be a piece on its own, just a beautiful melody. Doesn't say slower, it just says cantabile, but I do think I want to play it slower than it's so hectic, and then it would feel a bit stressed. So I think just calm down, and a new idea, a little slower tempo. Harmonically, quite simple, D major, flip from minor to major, and goes between D major and B minor. D major 7, the C sharp, nostalgic chord. And then same melody, starts the same but slightly different harmony. So D D to B minor, chromatic inner voice, going to E with a 9 and the sus4 to A. So A is the dominant, so it's the secondary dominant. D, B minor, E, A. And also the melody the first time it's and the second time it's just very cute and close together. So with this A you feel the harmonic gravitational pull back to D, especially with this +5 in chromatic inner voice. So same melody, now it just puts the chords not on the beat but an eighth note after, nice variation. And then contrast to this, yet another lovely idea, sounds like this. And it's all about one type of chord here. It's the 9 chord, so a dominant 7, and with an extra extension, the 9. So A, 7, and here's a 9. And it's like a bird singing in the forest in springtime. And also the piece right next to this in the same set, Opus 54, is the Nocturne or Notturno, which has this bird singing in the middle part. I think it's the same bird here in the piece next to it. Very, very cute. Again, just going over the 9 chord harmony with some passing notes. Then flips. So same type of chord but now F. So far away from A major, this kind of mediant modulation sequence down in thirds, typical Grieg, and then moving on to the D at the end. One thing about playing this, when you get this staccato 8th note in the left hand, I found that if you think about the first one as a long note, it makes it much more steady for the hands, because it feels a bit uncomfortably jumpy in a weird way if you do all the staccato. Well, now it turned out good, but if you think because it's pedal anyway, but if you do a long note here and then start to, you get much more stability in the hand, I found. Okay, we reach the D, pianissimo, and a pause, and then we get a repeat of the same material, but now starting on another chord in G major. So Grieg is typically quite economical with his structure material. This is identical, but from another key, but the same internal relations. But now we get something different, the same texture, but different chords here. Especially here, to feel this long note in the first helps a lot with more movement the second time. So it's, what's this? It's the same type of 9 chord, here a D9, but the order here, the progression is different. Now we go. So D dominant to G, and then A9, the dominant to D, kind of modulating between G and D here. These 4 bars repeated lower down. And it transforms to the same accompaniment of the march on the way down here. And that's the recapitulation, and we get the whole section of the march, the dwarfs marching, the trolls marching, exactly the same until, so I just skip it until the very end, and it's a final jump scare. That ends the piece. Really fun piece to play, I can recommend it. And that's it. Thanks for watching Sonata Secrets, and I'll see you in another video.